Hello again. This is the next section of the data preprocessing. We already finished with the data preprocessing for test 02, and we are now in the for test 03. So it is the data preprocessing 03, and we are going to discuss about pivot tables. So what is pivot tables? Yeah, it is too long, I guess. Or maybe I can make it a little bit better for you to understand this one. If you double click this one, I guess you can see. Maybe I will make it a little bit. Yeah, it will be better to separate this one. So in the group by, in the group by abstraction, we explore the relationship of the data set, and we are going to use pivot table here. Actually, it is similar. It is similar with what you can see on the spreadsheet. If you are using Excel, yeah, we can use the pivot table, especially the data in the type of tabular format. So the pivot table takes simple column-wise data as input and groups the entry into a two-dimensional table that provides a multi-dimensional summarization on the data. So we more focus on the multi-dimensional. Okay. So the difference between pivot tables and group by can sometimes cause confusion, because people say that they can use group by and they can use also pivot tables to show the same result. So I think it will be easier to think that the pivot tables are essentially a multi-dimensional version of group by. Okay? So that's the key point. And what we are going to learn here, yeah, you can do the same idea like split, apply, combine in pivot table, but both split and combine in the group by is only one dimensional. Meanwhile, the pivot table can across two-dimensional grid. What does it mean by two-dimensional? Okay, let's see about the result. In this case, yeah, I'm still using the NumPy, Pandas, Seaborn. Okay, so these are the basic library. When you do your assignment, I guess you at least need these two libraries. And the pivot tables, is important to aggregate the data, and I will use the Titanic data in this case. And yeah, I will just use the Seaborn library for doing this analysis. I load the Titanic data, and I'm using the SNS load dataset Titanic. And okay, this is the data. Maybe it is a little bit complex with the description, but you can see this one. So we have survive. Okay. Survive means whether the person is survived or not. Okay. I hope that you know about this Titanic. Do you know the Titanic? Okay. Titanic is the big vessel. Okay. So the big vessel that sink because of the they don't know when the ship crashed across the sea because of the ice. Okay, and there are many people who die due to this accident, and they have the data about the passengers. So these are the data of the passengers. So this is the first person, and then the next is the second person, the third person, the fourth person, the fifth person, and so on. And they have this data to have the details about its attribute. If you can see, these are the attributes like survive. So the first person or the second person, yeah, we can identify whether he or she survive or not. So if it is 0, then it is not survive. As 1, then it is survive. P class. Okay, so the P class means the passenger class, whether the passenger is in the first or the second or the third class. Sex is the gender of the passenger, whether he is a male or she is a female. And the age is the passenger age, whether the passenger is, yeah, young or old, and etc. It depends on the year. SIP SP, they have the data about the number of siblings or the number of spouses. And if they have the children or if they have the spouse, then yeah, it will be more than 0. The same with this P-arc. P-arc means the number of parents or children aboard. If they are with family, then it means the number is greater than 0. Passenger fare, it is the fare or the ticket cost. And embark means the port of embarkation. So they have C, Q, and S. The class, yeah, the class is representing the cabin info. Whether it is in the first or the second or third. Actually, the class is the same with this one, but this class is more about the, yeah, if you can see, the class is in number, okay, but the class here is more about the text. Okay? And yeah, we have who is the man or woman. Yeah, you can use either female or man or woman. Okay? And adult male, yeah, they have additional attribute. If it is true, then male. If it is false, then female. And about the tag, there is no so much information about the tag. It is in the tag number C or tag. Yeah, I think there are so many missing value here, so you can just tag. Yeah, this is about the tag in the vessel. Embark count. Where we want to know whether the passenger is embarked or where did the passenger took the ship. Okay, so this is the city name: Sherbrooke, Queenstown, and Southampton. Alive, where it is the expression of the survive. So the survive, yeah, is the same with this one. And alone, yeah, this is already defined with the condition. So if sibling is 0 and the P arc is 0, then it is true. So it means he or she is alone in the vessel. But if not, then it is false. Yeah, based on this attribute, yeah, it contains the information about the passenger. Okay? And we are going to understand this data more, okay, by using the pivot. Last time we used the group by to understand the data, and now let's take a look on this pivot. So to start learning about this data, we might begin by grouping according to the gender, survival status, and some combination thereof. So if you have read the previous section, you might be tempted to apply group by. Okay, let's say I want to do the survival rate by gender. So survival rate by gender means, yeah, let's say I have the description of the Titanic data like this, and then yeah, I want to group by the gender, which is sex, okay, and I want to know where how many percent the survivor, okay. So in this case, yeah, we have the survive, and this is the mean. You know, if the person is survived, then it is okay. This one, if 0 is no, 1 is yes. Okay, so if any number, okay, you let's say know that the data is showing 0, yeah, it means it is not survived. 1 is survived. So if the data is like this one, okay, So we have like 6 data. Okay, so in the 6 data, we have 3 0 and 3 1. Then it means this is 3, and if we just divide with 3 divided by 6, then it's 0.5. Yeah, we have 3 person who survive and 3 other person did not survive. Then that's why we have 0.5. The same with this one. If we have this probability 0.7, it means there are many survivors. And if you take a look on this one, this number is showing very low number, then the changes of there are many low survivor for male. So it means female survivor are more than male. So this immediately gives us insight. Overall, there are 3 of every 4 females on board survive, while only 1 of 5 males survive. So this is useful, but we might like to go one step deeper and look at survival by both sex and, let's say, the class. Okay? So using the vocabulary of group by, we might proceed using something like we group by class and gender, and select survival, apply mean, aggregate, combine, and so on. And maybe you want to unstack, okay, with some other kind of hidden multidimensionality. This is one example. Okay, let's say I have the group by. Now I want to group by with 2 columns. So I want to group by based on the sex and the class. So the first is based on the sex, and then next is based on the class. And then I want to see the survivor. Okay, so the survive category will be 0.1, and I want to aggregate with the mean. So you can see that the female in the first class is the highest survivor. Okay, so it means if you want to travel, then just make sure that you are in the first class. You will get high chance to survive. Okay, and the second is this one, and the third is 0.5. Okay, then if you're staying in the third class, the probability of survival is like 50%. For male, yeah, the survival in the first class is higher than the other class. Okay, so we can see from this one. By looking at those results, we can check the problem. If you see this data, the data is like it is not in the tabular format. So this data, the first column is about sex, is female and male, and the second data is about the class. This is the first, second, third, and so on. And then the last one is about the result from the survive. So if you want to make the data frame format, yeah, you can use the same like the Titanic group by this one, survive, aggregate, mean, and then you can do with the unstack. So this unstack is going to change the format. We have the sex as the row, and then the class will be the column. Okay? And we have the value here. Yeah, we can see easily for this data, and as I mentioned to you in the first part, this is like the 2-dimensional data. Okay, so the first data is the male or female, which is the first category, and the second data is another category, and the data itself is the numerical attribute. So using the unstack like this one, we can see data frame. So this gives us a better idea of how both gender and class affected survival, but the code is starting to look a little bit garbled. While each step of this pipeline makes sense in light of tools we have previously discussed, the long string of code is not particularly easy to read. Yeah, so like this one, yeah, you have to group by sex and class, and then when you want to aggregate based on the survive, and then you want to aggregate according to the mean of the survive, and then unstack. So the code is quite long. Okay? So this two-dimensional group by is common enough for that pandas include a convenience routine, and we can use pivot table for handling this multi-dimensional aggregation. So the pivot table in the data frame, you can see something like this one. If you use the pivot table, yeah, you can see that the sex, okay? So the sex is again the same with female and male, and then I want to do something with the survive data. This is the 0 and 1, and then the columns that I want to use is the class. Okay, using this kind of comment or using this statement is more concise or is more short. Okay, it's shorter than what we already did in the previous one. You can see, let me just do this comparison. Okay, you can see that the pivot table can be shorter than the group by, even though it results the same. This is eminently more readable than the group by approach and produce the same result. So as you might expect, an early 20th century transatlantic cruise, the survival gradient favors both women and higher classes. The first class women survive with near certainty. Okay, so you know, if you follow the Titanic story, yeah, Rose, okay, is the main character, and then the Jack, okay, Jack is in the third class man, so he didn't survive. Okay, so that proof about the movie. Okay, so we can also do with the multi-level pivots. Okay? If you just use the group by, so the grouping in pivot tables can be specified with multiple levels, because if you use in the if you use only the grouping, the group by, you cannot use multiple levels. So for example, we might be interested in looking at the edge as a third dimension. So we want to combine the sex, and then we want to combine with the class and the edge. So we'll bin the edge using the pd.cut function. So yeah, I already explained the cut. Let's say I want to cut the edge. Okay, so the edge is in between 0 until 18 and then 19 until 80. Okay, so I want to use this way. I will define the edge, and edge is cut it. Okay, we can cut into the range. The first range is 0 until 18, and then the second range is 18 until 80. And after I have this edge, okay, so this is the syntax. The first is the continuous data that I want to do this aggregation. Let's say I want to use the min for this one, and then sex and age. So this is with regard to the row. Okay? Sex and age with regard to the row. I know that the female, and then I want to know the age, and I want to know the age, and then the column is still remaining the same, which is the class. Okay? And next, yeah, we can apply the same strategy when working with columns as well. So let's add info on the fair page using the pd_cut. Okay, so I want to cut in the quantile. Okay. So let's say the fair, I have the fair, and then I want to cut it based on the quantile. Oops, sorry, I think this is not the age. Okay. Sorry, maybe I need to Yeah, this is we pin the fair, okay, with the quantile, and then we can do the pivot table. Okay, so the pivot table again with the data survive, and then we have two definition of all the rows, which is the sex and the age, and for the column we have the fair and a class. So the fair will be the first and the class will be the next. So here we have the fair. The fair is split it into the first category and the second category, and then the class is still the same, the first and the second and the third. So if the fair is in the first category, then we have the first and second and third, and if the fair is in the first, like this one, so we can also define the first and the second and the third. Okay, so you can see someone who paid with very less money, they are not staying in the first class. Okay, so the first class is only for the high fare. Okay, yeah, so we can have more dimensional. Okay, okay, oh sorry, I don't have this kind of IPYNB. Okay, but if you want to have more dimensional, you can try with your more dimensional pivot tables. Okay, so for this, I guess I will stop here and I will continue with next video, or we will meet in the class for the next section. Thank you very much for listening. See you.